And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at coalition_radio. And of course, there's the original mothership. 7 years of programming, coalitionradio.us. Interestingly enough, a conversation came up on social media last night, and it was about the stadium. Everyone's having those heartbroken thoughts about the Paw Sox and days of summer. They forgot about the grift that the Paw Sox management attempted to perpetrate and perpetuate on the Rhode Island public. Went back to the old site, went back to fightthestadium.com. Listen, it's dated, hasn't been updated in a couple of years, but you know what? There's interviews there from people like Professor Victor Matheson. They get back to the root economics. Oh, holy cow. I haven't done that before. They get back to the root economics of why we decided to walk away from a stadium subsidy. And boy, did we dodge a bullet. $150 million stadium, the most expensive minor league baseball stadium in American history, with more cost overruns to come. And I know that from the down low. But let's get down to business. We are on a tour, if you will, of some of the greatest entrepreneurs that Rhode Island is proud to have. And what I'm talking about is, of course, our hospitality industry. All Rhode Islanders constantly brag about, well, they go to this restaurant, they go to that restaurant. You know, every Friday night before the plague hit, and even now it's coming back, we could all be broke, but somehow we figure out a way to go out to dinner. We do. And I've stressed, whether it be the other day at George's of Galilee, or my good friend Dave's Brewed Awakenings, or on Federal, any of the work that I've done over the last few years, I've bragged about the fact that Rhode Islanders have something special here, that there's a chemistry here, there's something in the water. The rest of the country doesn't have this incredible variety of restaurants, this incredible variety of ethnic food, these homages, if you will, to the great American culinary traditions. It doesn't exist. Most of America goes to chain restaurants. I'm convinced if you go to a significant part of Ohio, my apologies to my Ohioan friends, and you go to the TGIFs at exit 79 as opposed to the TGIFs at exit 74 on I-80, and you go back to the right-hand corner of the building, you'll see the same knickknacks produced for you at a factory in China somewhere to give you that genuine feel, but it's not. It's a fraud. We have something special here in Rhode Island, and we're blessed, and the purpose of the series we're doing is to make sure that we don't lose it. I'm tired of these conversations where it's a state joke. I'm going to give you directions that are going to conclude a business that no longer exists. I'm tired of that because we've lost too many over the last year. And while some of it may have been unavoidable, a whole hell of a lot of it didn't have to happen. Right now, Rhode Island restaurants, the hospitality industry, retail, all sorts of businesses native to the state are facing epic hiring issues. Who'd have thought, right? Allegedly, the unemployment rate is amongst, the highest in this part of the country. But there are jobs that are going unfulfilled right now. Unfilled. And at this point, it's reaching a proportion where it threatens the continued existence of many of the fine dining establishments, many of the hotels, many of the hospitality businesses in the run-up to the busy summer season. It's a threat to their existence. So let's get down to it. Joining me right now is Shane Piche. He is with the Centredale Revival. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got that right.
Restaurant. We're in his corporate office in North Province. A couple of points come to mind right away. Here's a gentleman who is invested in his community in ways that most people could never imagine. I'm going to use a term with a smile, but he's rolled the dice on Rhode Island. He's all in. His construction company, Rhode Island. His restaurants, Rhode Island. His real estate investments, Rhode Island. And they all center around, a good part of them at least, center around Centredale and North Providence. Here's the hometown guy who made good and stayed home and has provided employment opportunities and service opportunities for a good part of this area for several years now, even as a young guy. He's active in state and local government. He gives back to the community. So when he opened up his restaurant, it really has become an anchor for the revival of a downtown Centredale, North Providence, I'll call it entertainment district, emerging entertainment district, that simply didn't exist a few years ago. Some great local businesses here have been toughing it out for a number of years. But again, here's the glue. Here's the guy who put his own money up front. No big subsidies from the state, no buyouts, no special interest loans, none of it. In other words, he did it the right way, organically, as we like to say in the business world right now. So with that all said, Shane, thank you for joining us this morning. We've been talking for a while about, well, just about everything, but let's get down to business. Tell us about the restaurant. What was your motivation for opening it? What style of food you have? Kind of give us a little bit of an infomercial.
Oh, sure. Excellent. Well, first of all, let me thank you for doing this. I appreciate you coming out and highlighting, our business and businesses across the state and, continuing to fight the good fight. Centredale Revival, it's kind of a simple concept, if you will. It's what I consider the Cheers of North Providence. A local place, eatery, watering hole, classic American cuisine. We kind of coined the phrase comfort food and cocktails. So far it's gotten great reviews locally. People have really enjoyed it. We have people actually traveling from all over. People even out of state have heard about it. Massachusetts, Connecticut. We've met a lot of people come for a lot of different reasons. So we've been very excited, about the feedback. And again, we opened in a obviously a difficult time with the pandemic and the different restrictions that we're in. We've done everything we can to try to maintain. We've been lucky in terms of staffing. We have a great staff, people that are dedicated, hardworking staff. Unfortunately, it's limited. We could certainly use a lot more staff, but this is the situation that most businesses in the state find themselves in, not just in the restaurant and hospitality business. I can speak to everybody. I mean, being in the construction industry, that's struggling as well. There's a huge shortage in that industry and all across the board. I mean, I've talked to people in the automobile industry that they can't get help. So you name it. I think we had a meeting last night with the governor. Was very interesting. But what we talked about was, if Rhode Island was reopened, I think on this following upcoming Monday, we could easily provide 10,000 jobs across the state and get people off unemployment, back to work and back to a normal life. So, that's been the topic of the day. But as far as the restaurant, great. Again, great local eatery, good menu, good food, good atmosphere, and we're looking forward to continuing to serve our community.
Is there a star on the menu that you'd like to tell us about? Is there a specialty that you have that you particularly enjoy?
So I don't want to be cliche and say everything is good, but I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed. But I would say we have a few items that are definitely staples. One of which is somewhat of a historic sandwich in the area. It's called the Magic Chef Steak Sandwich. It was developed in a Magic Chef restaurant, which was one of the first restaurants in the state. It was here on Middle Spring Avenue. North Providence, originally the Mansell family, who still occupy that same location as a jewelry store. They had a restaurant there, and the Magic Chef was a pretty famous steak sandwich. I would say that's a big seller for us. Also the burger, I would say our burger is definitely up there. It's it's probably our best-selling item. So those two staples on the handhelds are definitely there. We've been told the chicken parm is delicious, shepherd's pie. I mean, it goes on and on. Unique few things. We have kind of a spin on cheese sticks. We do these pepper jack sticks with a sweet chili sauce that people really seem to enjoy. And now that summer's here, our tomato jam is up and running, and that's pretty popular as well. So we've got quite a few. We hope we got something for everyone.
It's becoming a really charming district. And again, I want to point out that there's a number of businesses that have been here for years and do wonderful things. But now, to me, it's fascinating. Providence, Rhode Island, when you think about Down City, whether it was Vincent A. Buddy Cianci himself or people in his administration or the business community, really were amongst the first to point out that downtown districts are really no longer centers of commerce per se. They become entertainment districts. And each of these entertainment districts in Providence has its own sort of personality. A Wayland Square, say, versus the true East Side on Hope Street, versus, say, obviously Atwells Avenue and Federal Hill. In North Providence, you've got a number of great little neighborhoods as well. And there's an opportunity here. What's starting to happen is businesses coming home to North Providence. And the Centredale district is this great little turn of the century look, but it's all legit. It's not, none of it's artificial. With populated by, again, obviously one of our favorite people, the Scamato family and Yacht Club Soda, but also great little places of business owned locally by people who have been in this town for generations. And it's a welcome antidote to Mineral Spring. Now, I mean, we all know Mineral Spring. We love Mineral Spring Avenue. We make fun of the traffic, but you've got developing here this little enclave, a little town. You compare it in your approach to being involved in the redevelopment of this. You compare it to Patuxent Village, right?
Right. Absolutely. That was Patuxent Village. I think was, and again, you can add in the other ones, Hope Street, and you could talk about Wickford and all that. But Patuxent Village to me is the direct correlation. If you look where Centredale begins, as you cross you cross it from Johnston into North Providence, right there on your left, you have the old Masons Hall. It's right on the Woonasquatucket River. You got roads on the Patuxent. To me, that building, it could essentially be roads on Woonasquatucket. As you come down, you look at your Cumberland Farms, you have your liquor store, and then you have all your little shops. Now you look at Centredale Revival as a staple restaurant. We have the pool hall across the street. There's a few other small places that are on the way. We have a couple places now that are under construction. There's going to be a couple of more restaurants going in. As soon as you if you go up Middle Spring Avenue, still in the Centredale district, you have Tumble Salts, which has done an amazing job. And then you have all your small businesses that have been here, like you mentioned, Yacht Club, the best, the Rhode Island staple, been here since 1915. We have the Robbins Funeral Home, another business, generational business. Our place, Tuxedo, Victor's been here forever. It's a staple right there at the end of Middle Spring Avenue. So it's a quaint little area. Definitely could use some love and TLC, and that's what we're hoping to provide. And so far, we've been able to draw a very, very good crowd from all over, not just here in North Providence, but from all over the state. People have come and they really enjoy it. It's kind of an easy place to get to. I think one of the drawbacks of Patuxent Village, it's a little difficult to get to from certain areas in the state. Fortunately for us, Centredale is a very, very simple, easy place to get to, highways on all sides of us. And I believe, if I'm correct, that point that Centredale Revival is on is, I think it's the third heaviest traveled intersection in the state of Rhode Island. It may have changed, but at one point I know it was. And it's right there. It's the beginning of, as we say, miserable Spring Avenue. So
now, here's a conundrum. Any one of us, and obviously, I guess the official cliche for the year 2020, 2021 is uncharted waters, unprecedented. But no one had a roadmap going into this, what we were going to be like coming out at the other end of the tunnel. And we are, despite the claims of some, coming out at the other end of the tunnel. Lights in the horizon, all those cliches rule right now. There are businesses that didn't make it. And the subject of another conversation at another time is the appropriateness of the state response, what small businesses were put through relative to large ones. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered and need to be answered. But I don't think any one of us would have predicted a year ago that one of the central challenges to quote-unquote reopening the economy, and I hate that term. I really, really hate that term, because to me it cedes over to someone else's authority that we're now allowed to do business. But if you had told us that employment was going to be a central challenge to quote-unquote reopening the economy, I would have thought you were nuts, because the constant claim in the state of Rhode Island is that our unemployment rate is too high and we've got too many people looking for jobs. The restaurant industry is hard work. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But what we've begun to learn, and I've begun to learn as I've gotten to know some significant, players in the restaurant business, is that number one, there's clearly a path to skilled work from people who start at the most basic level, and there's a lot more money for the individual to make than I would have anticipated. So talk to us about the opportunities at your restaurant. I mean, you're a relatively young place. How many folks roughly do you employ right now, and how many do you want to employ?
So at any given time, we're easily somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 employees between front and back of the house. We could probably certainly hire quite a few more. One of the issues is, I think what everyone's struggling with right now, with the fact that the government, the Fed, has put in the extra 300. So we all know we got through when it was shut down, and they were the 600, and what happens is we're creatures of habit. People get used to a certain thing, and they kind of get in a rut. What's happening now is you talk about servers and you talk about bartenders, right? Specifically, front of the house people that work on gratuity. One of the problems that we're faced with because of the restrictions and the fact that a lot of our businesses cannot operate at full capacity. These people are in position to not earn what they're typically used to earning. So now, if they were unemployed, and let's say I was told that the state of Rhode Island right now, the average person that collects unemployment is about $385 a week. Okay, you add the Fed 300, you're talking about $685 a week that someone's earning to stay home. Now, servers and bartenders would typically work shifts and could make, they're making $1,000, $1,200, some cases $1,500 a week, very good earnings. You take their opportunity to earn, you cut that in half. Now they might be making, if they come to work and they're working twice as hard because they're overcoming a lot of the different restrictions, they're working twice as hard, they're making half the money. So a lot of them look at it and say, well, I'll beat the system and I'll stay home. I mean, it's just human nature. What I think has to happen is there's a message that needs to come down, from the top. It starts with our leadership in government. I don't even want to use the term leadership. I like representatives. That's what they are.
Right.
That says, listen, it's time to go back to work. It's time to get life back to normal. We know that they're getting shots in arms. We know that people, we did everything that was asked of us. The goalpost originally was put up was 2 weeks to flatten the curve to make sure that hospitals didn't get overrun. And then from there, it went to massive shutdowns. It went through these different, all these different regulations and rules, and this constant barrage on certain industries that were certainly targeted. And now the issue is, as it starts to open up, because of the situation that the government's created in terms of the employment pool, people are not going to go back. I mean, summer's coming. If they're not going to be able to go earn, if they can't go to Cellos on the waterfront or Blue or Ballads on Block Island, if those restrictions are there and they can't go earn that income, or their income is going to be relative to the one they can earn while they're sitting at home, well, they're going to sit at home. And so now it's really up to our leadership and our representation to say, look, it's time to get back to work. It's time to go be productive members of society and get back to business and do things the right way, because at some point it's going to run out. And the sad part's going to be, if we don't straighten these problems out now, these people are not going to have jobs to go back to. Right. Because businesses are closing, not because they don't have the demand for their product, because they can't produce the product or they can't produce the service. So they close. Well, when the 300 goes away and things go back, you're going to have no job to go back to.
Businesses face a variety of costs for a variety of reasons, from a variety of directions. Now, specific to your business, you've got a lot of great controls in place. You control your real estate. Your other businesses revolve around construction, so you're able to internalize a lot of costs that most restaurants can't. You've got a neat little environment here, and you've got a niche in an emerging part of the state. That all speaks very well for the long-term nature of your restaurant. You will survive. You started at the, arguably one of the worst possible times. You've got it under control. But there are so many hospitality-related businesses in this state that don't have that kind of control. They're highly leveraged in the sense that they're in expensive real estate. Downtown Providence, downtown Warwick, downtown in some of the posher Cranston neighborhoods. If you've got to do a rebuild or you want to redesign something, you want to tweak something, you've got a crew to do it. Not everybody has that.
That's right.
So the problem is that, and you tell me if I'm overstating this, because you're involved with business people and ongoing businesses in a variety of industries and a variety of levels. It's kind of a unique situation. But my take, particularly over the last week, having met so many people involved in the hospitality industry, that we're an industry on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That, in fact, if we don't gear up significantly and don't have the kind of summer that we have the potential to have. I was with the folks at George's a day or so ago, and they're pointing out the fact that their business is booming, not obviously in regards to last year, but even in regards to the year before, because you've got this collective cabin fever in the state where people want to go out, they want to get out. I've mentioned before, we have a unique lifestyle in Rhode Island. People want that. They want that back.
Yep.
But if restaurants aren't equipped to handle that, what happens?
And well, so here's what happens. There's no doubt there's a pent up demand. There's no doubt about that. And the problem with that is now you're going to open the floodgates, and that the dam to protect that is not only does it have a few little leaks in it, it's got some gaping holes. A lot of these businesses, as you mentioned, there's certain types of leverages. You're right. Not everyone can own the real estate. Not everyone can be, have different streams of income and different opportunities. A lot of these people, this is their livelihood. This is their only way to earn. And, everyone always thinks, oh, a business owner, you're doing well. Listen, the sad reality is there's more times than not, and you talk to anyone in business that they care to know, everyone gets paid before the owner, whether people believe that or not. Because if an owner doesn't pay everyone else, eventually they're out of business. The staff gets paid. The bills get paid, the lights, the taxes, the insurances, the vendors, everybody gets paid. And it's our choice. Don't get me wrong. Anybody that's an entrepreneur that's in it, we know what it is. We're big boys and girls, and we do what we have to do. The problem is when it becomes totally out of your control. When you have when you have government overreach, who's saying at one point they want you to tax and they want you to foot the bill, but at the next point you can't operate. Like you mentioned it. You want to talk about high-end real estate. Why are the rents so high? Because the taxes are so high. In a lot of these cases, triple net. So these businesses get to a point where before you even turn the key, you're at such a major disadvantage that you'd have to be insane to do it. And in order to overcome that, you have to have those big months, specifically summer. A lot of businesses here in Rhode Island are seasonal. We have beautiful beaches. We have summer. No matter what community you're in, summer means a lot to Rhode Island. As do all the seasons, really, because certain businesses thrive in different times. But summer specifically, a lot more people get out. Your days are longer. It's warm. People are motivated. And there's going to be this opening of the floodgates. There's this pent-up demand that's going to come flying out. And when a business is not ready to handle it, what's going to happen? The Yelp reviews are going to come out. The bad publicity is going to happen. And now you're destroying that business from the inside out. And it's not because it's something that is in their control. I mean, if somebody goes and makes a mistake or, is failing because their lack of effort or their lack of input to their business, that's one thing. These are things that are out of their control that are causing them to be in that position. And it's not even just restaurants. When you look at Cumberland Farms closing stores because they can't staff, when you look at coffee shops, Dunkin' Donuts closing stores because they can't staff, this is a major, major issue. And again, the issue is we've made it more advantageous to stay home than it is to go to work. At some point, that's going to come to an end. And the sad part's going to be for all the people that are at this point now kind of taking advantage. Those businesses that we're talking about, they may not be there to go back to. And we're all going to be in a very bad situation if we can't get back to normal life, because you'll never see it again. You'll never see it again. So, yeah, you make a great point that the businesses are going to be at a major disadvantage if we can't come up with a good solution here.
One of the issues that I like to focus on when I talk to a local business owner is the impact of just simply their existence on the local economy. Now, Rhode Islanders have, as you know, a brutally high standard when it comes to dining.
Absolutely.
We're surrounded by some of the very best.
Absolutely, 100%.
And your outfit, just based on the reviews, is taking a seat at that table. And congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And particularly in a time like this, to have the kind of impact you've already had. But talk to me about some of the suppliers that you use. You don't have to say names if you don't want to, but ultimately, when you look at your expenditures, how much of them constitute local money, local businesses? How many checks are you writing, not just to your local employees, but to folks in Rhode Island who, quite frankly, have got to be thrilled to have someone new on the scene generating incremental revenue to them?
So, yeah, you bring up a good point there. One of the things I talk about, and just in the restaurant industry in general, to me, the restaurant industry is your new industrial revolution. It's your new factory. You provide a consumable product. You provide jobs at every level, from entry level to management. There's a ton of opportunity to move up. So, the restaurant itself provides multiple other jobs. Food vendors, like you talked about, we have sales reps. Okay, sales reps from every type of vendor, whether they're selling, paper good products, they're selling us actual produce and product in that nature. Locally, you talked about, great sponsor of your show is John Scambato over at Yacht Club. We exclusively use Yacht Club soda. They're right next door. They're our neighbor. I would think we're probably one of the larger accounts in Rhode Island for them, maybe even in the country. But we consciously know, like, I have the greatest soda company, in my opinion, in the country right here. That's who we're going to use. We try to source everything we can locally. We like to do business with people face to face. And so, yeah, that one location, now one little restaurant, not only provides the jobs for the people inside of it, it also provides the jobs for our food vendors and our purveyors. These restaurants start closing, these restaurants start going out of business, like anything else, you're going to lose that opportunity. Not only are you losing the bartender and the cook, you're going to lose the sales rep. You're going to lose that company. Those are the larger companies. They know without someone to, they're essentially distributors. They're taking from a manufacturer, they're holding it at their warehouse, and they're distributing it out. If they have no one to distribute it to, they're going to lose that business, and essentially that manufacturer is also going to feel it. So there's everything is entwined. It's an ecosystem, right? Like they always say, if you eliminated one thing and you change the whole world. It's what's happening, and it's not just in the hospitality industry. It's in every business. We see it in construction. We see it in automobiles. I mean, we've talked about common situations with automobiles. There's no inventory. How can you sell something that you don't have? Right. In order to have it, you have to be able to build it. You need the factories up and running. So everything goes hand in hand. And unfortunately, I think what happens a lot of times is we have representatives in our government that may have never signed the front of the check, as I say, or worked in that field. So when they're making these decisions, they're making them based on certain information, but they're not really, it's like I say, in school, everything fits, everything works. When you get out in the field,
right,
they didn't account for snow, they didn't account for ice, they didn't account for rain, they didn't account for, the different terrains and things like that. So in the field is a lot different than when you're looking at it from a simple black and white situation. And I think that our elected officials need to do a better job of understanding. And I will tip my hat to the governor. We had a meeting last night with our group, the League of Rhode Island Restaurants. The governor came. We sat for a little over 2 hours. We were able to get, some great points across, get some great dialogue going. And I think that the governor's ears and eyes opened up to a lot of different things. And we'll see. There's a press conference today. We're looking forward to it. Fortunately for us locally here in North Providence, I will say I think we have the best local government. We have a great administration that's very business friendly and is also, very attentive to the community. I'll say on the record, we have the best town council in the state of Rhode Island. I ask all people, the town council is very supportive of the local businesses. They're always looking to do things, and they're accessible. The key to me, our representatives should always be accessible. The previous administration, not accessible. Right. Would never have met with the group like this governor has. So we want to give them the benefit of the doubt. We want to give them the opportunity. It's a difficult job, but you got to put it back in the hands of the people. The free market will decide whether people are doing the right thing or not. Mm-hmm. Businesses do not succeed without the sign off, if you will, of the free market. In order to do that, we need better representation. We need the government to get out of the way, get people back to work, get life back to normal. And again, everyone knows to be responsible for themselves. Everyone knows if they're in an uncomfortable situation, you don't go. I mean, you have to have the ability to have that freedom and let people make the decisions. And really they have, I think at this point, we've seen it. It's been over a year. The 2 weeks has been, 13 months. It's time to look at this from a broader lens and say, okay, let's let the public, control their lives again.
Right. What's fascinating to me is a couple of examples of affiliated industries. Brew pubs and a variety of small liquor distillers / manufacturers have been an emerging part of the business landscape here for a couple of years. And it's interesting because one of the reasons why that may seem like it's a recent phenomenon is, because it is. And one of the reasons it is because government in the state of Rhode Island decided to actively step away from some of the overregulation in that market. And all of a sudden, by simply embracing a tiny sliver of free market principles, those businesses boomed.
You have manufacturing again.
Right. Now, on the other side, we've got we were one of the first in the nation to have not only just farm to table, but literally ocean to table here in the, you look at organizations like Matunic Oyster House. We literally pioneered the concept. I tell people when they're around the country, if you love oysters, you have to go to Matunic Oyster House. They grow their own. They're like, well, what do you mean? Well, you can literally go on tours of their oyster beds different times of the year. And they look at me just baffled. And oh, by the way, right behind the restaurant is their own farm where they grow a lot of their root vegetables, a lot of their herbs, and some of their regular table vegetables. So again, that doesn't exist in the rest of the country. We can't. Those are industries that are, I don't want to say fragile, not because of the people involved in them. People involved in them have done astonishing work on both on a base business level as well as the skills necessary to thrive in that industry. But they're fragile in the sense that these are all discretionary items by households. Households don't have to go out to eat. Households don't have to go out for a latte. Households don't have to go out and eat oysters out. Quite frankly, a lot of that stuff during the plague, the height of the plague, people were bringing home. So what consumer habits once changed are difficult to re-engineer. And if we continue this thrust, whether it be how we handle the disease itself and or any of the business aspects surrounding it, if we continue to foster this almost isolationist, stay-at-home, dystopic vision of what Rhode Island society is going to be like, we threaten the underpinnings, the long-term nature of our economy itself. We are an economy built on small businesses. Everyone, listen, Shane, how many times have you heard, small business is the backbone of Rhode Island? Do you think it's time for our government to start behaving like it is?
You would hope so. You would certainly hope so. And, that's the reality. The reality is Rhode Island, I always say, is a microcosm of the country, but it is. We are certainly a small business capital. When you look around, we have some larger industries, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of self-employed people. You have a lot of small businesses that employ, quite a few people. And that's really, it's really the traditional American way is to go out and get it, go out and earn it. What I tell everybody, listen, you go to a place, what separates you? Your service, your product, your environment. If you have a typical beverage, a yacht club soda, if you drink it in my place or you drink it somewhere else, it's still a yacht club soda. It's going to taste the same. What's the difference? The difference is the smile on the face of the person who served it to you and the environment that you served it in. So those are the things that entrepreneurs, work on, and that's what separates you. That's, again, market will dictate. If you do a bad job and you don't execute well and you don't have a good product, people won't buy it. And sometimes even when you do a great job, they're not going to buy it because it's maybe just not what they're looking for. But if you do a good job, you're rewarded based on the fact that people want to patronize you because they appreciate and that's their choice to go ahead and spend their $100. So that's the key to Rhode Island. It's the key to the country as far as that's concerned. And in order to make that happen, like you said, you saw with that industry, you talk about breweries and all that stuff. That's manufacturing. And that was done because the regulations were taken off and they were allowed to be entrepreneurial. They were allowed to go out and essentially lay it on the line, create a business. And some of them succeeded, some of them didn't. But, that's the way it goes. And so we need more of that. And in order to do that, we do need the labor pool to be, brought back into effect. Like you said from the beginning, you've heard all the time about we need jobs, we need jobs, we need jobs. Well, guess what? We have all the jobs. Now we need people to fill them.
Dave LeVay, as we've talked about, in cooperation with a lot of you, has pulled together this legislation. It exists now in terms of both the Senate and House bill. I guess a couple of quick questions. My first question is a sense of urgency. How long? You're in the central part of the state. At places like Georges of Galilee, where we were the other day. It's you see this explosion of business the minute you get that first 60 or 70 degree day down by the water. But at the same token, you've got to face the seasonal constraint of the summer business as well. It's an important time of the year for you. How much time do you need in introducing new employees to your team, to your crew? That's not just a open the door here, this is how you do it kind of thing. There's chemistry involved, isn't there? There's a team atmosphere that needs to be created in a kitchen.
Absolutely.
Speak to how important it is, not only because of the summer season, but just the amount of time it takes to integrate someone into an environment like an active kitchen, as to why this legislation needs to get done now.
No, absolutely, and that's a great point. So, every place is going to be different, right? They're all unique characters. And we try to build our culture. Everybody has their culture, but you're right, there's a time to adapt. I mean, there's a learning curve for anybody. You could do something for a long time, you switch from one company to the other, selling the same type of thing. Everyone has their little nuances. So there is certainly a time of learning curve. But what I've learned over the years is people in general are typically, they're pretty resilient and they're pretty adaptive. So it can happen quickly, but it can't be, so last minute. It needs to happen now. You look at, say, like an organization like Cello's. I mean, they have 9 locations, 2 major locations on the water. It takes a lot of time and a lot of people and a lot of manpower and energy to open these places that are only open for that short amount of time. So, yeah, you need to be prepared now. It's mid-April. That 70-degree day is coming. It's going to be here very shortly. If it isn't, next week, the week after. Talking Mother's Day is coming up, okay? It's a huge day. We all know in the restaurant industry, Mother's Day was always a big day to go out. Sunday, Mother's Day. That's around that time. So, yeah, it needs to happen now. It really needed to happen, yesterday. But, we got to make those changes now. So, yeah, Dave obviously drew up a great bill. And again, are things perfect? No, but the idea is it's all about where the incentive lies. And the incentive always has to be the incentive to go out and be productive. To be incentivized to stay home, it's eventually going to fall in and it's going to implode in on itself. So getting people back to work, getting people that sense of worth again is really what it is. You mentioned it earlier. People get into habits. They get into that rut. They get into that feeling. And before you know it, it's very difficult to bounce back. Right. People are resilient. It's time now to get the state back opened up. Let people know it's safe. It's safe. Restaurants are safe. Okay, I'll go on record and say we're going to be the safest locations. We've had more regulations, and if you look at the numbers, they didn't come from restaurants. I mean, we're doing, and the customers tell you that because they come in and they want to be there. Who are we to tell? Who is the government to tell people that they can't go do what they want to do? That's always, I think, been my fundamental.
Right. And just on a final note, everyone knows that restaurant work is hard, and if there's been any benefits to some of these crazy bar rescues, reality TV shows you've seen, it's brought home to a lot of people the challenges and the difficulties of opening up a restaurant. I don't think anyone knew what the word serve safe was, 3 or 4 years ago, unless you worked in a restaurant. Now, how many times a week when you watch these shows is it inflicted upon you that, your temperatures on your food in storage not only have to be perfect, right, but there's, on a moment's notice, they're inspectable.
Right.
These are all, the notion these days of, honey, you're a really great chef. Let's open up a restaurant. But, and that's the negative side that people see. But the positive side is if you can talk to the type of careers that people can have and the money that they can make, sure, particularly if they have to start at the ground floor, like so many young people will, right, literally washing the dishes or busting a table. But what kind of career paths have you seen from your experience in the restaurant business?
Listen, I mean, you name it. I mean, there's whether you're on the kitchen side, front of the house side, management side. I mean, you have people that make very, very lucrative careers out of that industry, very lucrative careers. And listen, at the end of the day, you talk to anyone who's ever served or bartended, it's the best money you're ever going to make. I mean, let's face it, you're out there when a place is busy and it's a good time. It really isn't work. Okay, it's hard and it's strenuous, but at the end of the day, you're out, you're with people, you're communicating, you're socializing, you're earning a good living. Listen, the unsung heroes are the guys in the kitchen and the girls in the kitchen. There's no doubt about that. When it's 110 degrees and they're in there sweating and it's a busy night and that line's cranking and they're moving, people I think sometimes take for granted how hard those people work to deliver that. So that I think is one of the sides that you don't see. But again, I'll speak for us. I'm confident there's not a person in our establishment that makes minimum wage. Everybody is at least better than that. But again, it's about what they do. And I tell everybody that comes into our organization, look, wherever you want to go, whatever you're trying to get to in life, we want to help you get there. You may not be with us forever, but while you're here, we want to make it, as best as it can be for you and in return for us. So whatever you give us, we're going to give you in return. And I got to tell you, I think most people that I know in business have that same mentality. That's just, to me, is a successful mentality. You're only as good as the people that are around you. Mm-hmm. Okay, not one person takes over the world. Dan McKee will not be successful if he doesn't have the right people around him. Any person in any type of position, if you don't have, what is the old saying? You're only as strong as your weakest link. So what we do as an organization is we want to bring in talent. We want to bring in those people, and we want to reward them. But you have to prove that you're worthy of that reward, and they do. I mean, we've been very fortunate. We have our solid core nucleus is there, but we need people, we need help, and there is opportunity to grow. I mean, people come in, they start as a dishwasher. Before you know it, they learn a little bit. Now they're prep cooking. Now they just made themselves a few bucks more. Before you know it, they're on the line. So you got someone who came in at a minimum wage job, and before you know it, is making 20, 25 bucks an hour. I mean, if someone really wanted to go out and hustle, they can do that. I tell everybody, what do you want to earn? Tell me what you want to earn, and I'm going to show you how to get there. And I think based on the guys that I know and the gals that I know in the businesses, they're all feeling the same way. There's not a successful business person out here who doesn't take care of their staff. That's why your staff stays with you. If you're having issues, and a lot of times you got to self-reflect. The issues right now are not self-induced. There's a lot of great people out there with great companies that are willing to pay handsomely. But the employee have to come to the table and know that you got to work. I mean, at the end of the day, it is work. But if you're sitting home and you're getting paid, it's very difficult to want to go back to work.
And on a final note, ultimately there's a percentage of folks folks get in the hospitality business for all sorts of reasons. Rhode Island is blessed with a very strong artist culture, working artists.
Absolutely.
And for a number of them, particularly when they're young, family members of mine end up working at any one of a number of restaurants because of the flexibility of scheduling, the ability to make some money while you pursue your dream.
Absolutely.
Then there's other people who, when they get into it, discover the fact that one day they want to open up a restaurant. Is there any better job training available? Is there any better field of dreams, if you will, that spawns more entrepreneurs than young people who start out in the restaurant business?
Probably not. I mean, me personally, my first job, I think I was 13 years old. I was washing dishes. Mm-hmm. I've been in and around that business. I've had the fortune to be around a lot of businesses and learn a lot from a lot of people. But the restaurant business, it certainly builds character. Okay, you're under a lot of different stresses. You're under a lot of different situations. There's a lot to learn there, and it does. I mean, talk to anyone. A lot of people have made their life serving. A lot of people they put themselves through college, serving, bartending, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have a lot of passion for it. We have people in our kitchen. I don't think there's a greater thing you can do for somebody than cook them a meal, whether it's, someone when you're at home or as a chef in a restaurant. There's nobody a chef who says, I want to become a chef because I'm going to do it financially, okay, because it's going to be the best financial decision of my life. They do it because they're passionate about it. They do it because it's the thrill. And I think most successful people, it's usually not the finances that are driving them. It's usually the success. I always tell everybody, chase the dream. Don't chase the money. You chase the money, you're never going to be fulfilled. You chase the dream, everything falls into place. People in the restaurant business specifically, like I said, people in the kitchen and stuff, when they start to learn it and they get to that high level of an executive chef or someone who's at that level, they're chasing the dream. They know what it's like to put out. There's no better feeling in the world when someone tells you, oh my God, this was the best steak I ever had, or this was the best meal, or the best whatever it is I ever had.
Right.
So that's what drives people in that business, and that also builds your character because, again, there's more to it. And that business does give you a lot of that. You're interacting with people on a regular basis, and you encounter so many different situations that relate to other aspects of your life that really build a strong character.
Well, first of all, thank you for spending all this time with me this morning. I mean, it's it's what we're trying to do here, and I think we accomplished today at a very high level, was bring to the fore the challenges, the passions, the love, the chaos right now of operating at a high level in the hospitality industry. Again, all credit to you for I don't want to say diving in because clearly years of preparation were involved, but willingness to take the leap at a time when Rhode Island is so fundamentally challenged. As a society here in Rhode Island, we need to relearn, I believe, a respect for individuals who create wealth. And when I say create wealth, I don't mean line their own pockets, although hopefully that's a serious byproduct. That's why people invest in order to, they take risks in order to create reward. But when I talk about creating wealth, I'm talking about organizations in a community that generate incomes, jobs, security, dreams, services for people in that community. And as we've said so many times over the last week or so, you hire someone, they pay their way through school. Perhaps they didn't get a chance to go to a college if they didn't have this type of job. You spend money locally on a supplier who then feeds their family and maybe is able to take a risk like so many great, you talk about organizations like Pafoni's. I mean, that type of farm to table didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago. Organizations like that sold to, well, wholesale producers, or maybe didn't even thrive in that end of the business. It's unimaginable the results that happen when good people work hard, chase their passions and dreams, and the halo effect, as I call it, resonates everywhere in ways that I don't even think we think of as Rhode Islanders anymore. And my fear and my takeaway from conversations like this is that once lost, it's virtually impossible to rebuild that ecosystem, as you said a little while ago. It's not something you just push a button and it happens. The relationships that Rhode Islanders have between food, restaurants, suppliers, families, institutions is something that's complex and is the result of decades of incredible dining, incredible experiences. I just want to close off and say congratulations on all your efforts and your willingness to extend yourself beyond the doors of your business and involve yourself in making it really better for everyone. And if that sounds Pollyannish, well, I'm guilty of that. Because again, we need to celebrate the success of local business people, men, women, of virtually every ethnic, religious, every background imaginable. It can happen here in Rhode Island, and it is happening here in Rhode Island. You know, you don't get a Los Andes and a Centredale Revival and a Bee's Thai Kitchen and a Capitol Grill and a pot of pho in one state without a whole hell of a lot of hard work and passion and just raw chemistry. That doesn't happen everywhere. So let's just keep fighting the fight. Let's get Dave's legislation passed. Let's get people back to work. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. Folks, if you're hearing this for the first time, first of all, well, come out to Shane's Restaurant. It's a patriotic act by a Rhode Islander for a Rhode Islander. Number two, take a moment if you can like us, follow us, share us, subscribe to us, whatever social media venue you happen to enjoy. Do that because it allows small independent media outlets like ours at the Coalition to kind of rise up a little bit above the white noise of the conventional media who, you know, we're proud of our efforts at the Coalition. Not a lot of organizations are sending their people out for, you know, to do the kind of in-depth work that we are. There's a number of great independent media outfits in this state. Support us, you know, just support us all with that type of effort. I'm going to be traveling now. I'll be spending quality time with our Governor McKee in just a few short hours. I know he's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And of course, I'll be sure to say hi to Dr. Scott at our, not just mine, but your Rhode Island Department of Health. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back on the air soon.